blood pressure increases. And all that thing was meant for some good thing. So in the mind you either run away from that situation, fight in that situation, or you die. The end of it. That's it. And if you are surviving, then you are back to the normal thing. But in the modern day stressful thing, it goes on. You are always chronically in that stressful situation. Then it may be something really bad. Now the same system is also activated when you are exercising, or somebody just scolds you, or you are hyper angry or hyperactive aggressive, and it may lead to depressing kind of situation because this previous life. So the system is more or less like this tire. So if there is no air, then what happens? It won't work. I mean, the vehicle won't move. If there is slightly more air, then it will start working. If the air is like just on the brink, what will happen? The chances of blast. And if you just keep pumping air, then what will happen? There is a blast by filling the air itself. So the stress system is something like this very famous inverted U kind of curve. So if there is no stress or something, there is no motivation in life, you are just completely bored and stuff. But if it is good, then you are happy, the performance increases. It may be best at some level. It all depends from individual to individual. But beyond that point, what happens is you are becoming sad, you are becoming angry, you are becoming depressed, crying, any sorts of reaction. And this most of us would have faced it at some point or other in our life. Okay, so if I just were to ask you, just rate your in your personal life and professional life, just rate it both good or bad. Just take about half a minute or something. If I were just to ask you, you can rate it boring, good or bad. How do you rate yourself? Everybody is good? How many of you are good? Great. Stress is good, by the way. Okay, so little bit of biology of it, or neurobiology of it. So if we sense any threat or fearful kind of threatful situation, then the hypothalamus sends a signal to the pituitary, and then that signal comes to the adrenal gland, and that will secrete one hormone which is called cortisol, and there is also adrenaline. This hormone, the receptors are present across the body and the brain. So almost all the cells of the body has the receptor of this hormone. So whenever there is this hormone which is secreted, you are having this threatful kind of situation. I am coming to speak on this stage, so suddenly the heart rate will increase, and the whole body prepares you to face that situation, including the immune system, the brain, everything, the stomach and everything. Before going further, I'll just introduce you to two regions. There are several regions in the brain, but just two regions which will be relevant for the later part. This is prefrontal cortex, this part of the brain, which has many of the functions. I mean, just a few of them are listed, but it has many of the functions. And in this process of evolution, so in the animal's brain, you won't find this cortex region which is very highly developed, prefrontal cortex. They will have the visual cortex, the auditory cortex, olfactory cortex and all. But this prefrontal cortex, this is what gives us the capacity to think, to reason, to reflect on things. So all these functions which are there, these are part and parcel of this high evolutionary being, which is human. Most of the animals don't have this region which is so highly evolved. The animal brain limits itself to mostly the limbic region. So most of the animal reactions are kind of impulsive in nature. So they just react to the situation, respond to stimulus. They don't think. I mean, humans can stay hungry in the process of fasting for days and months also. And humans can just keep on eating. Animals generally do not do that. We can just choose not to react to any situation. I mean, even if there is some situation, if I am doing some sadhana or something, I don't care. I sit in Himalaya the size is increasing. That increase may be because of the increase in the cell size which are there inside, or the processes. If you have seen the structure of a neuron, there will be like many processes, like a branch of the root of a tree, the one cell body and multiple processes. So those things can increase, and amygdala decreases inside. On the other hand, if it's a bad stress, then let's go next. Next. That one will decrease. So there's shrinkage. And this shrinkage is also seen naturally with age. So as you age, the cortex size in general population it decreases. So we can see that, I mean in Hindi there is a saying, Sati aa gaya. Sati aa gaya is, in a way there are two meanings. Sati aa means 60. So people have crossed 60. Or Satya means who cannot think properly. Because with age it seems that region is shrinking. Once that region shrinks, you cannot think properly, you cannot take rational decisions. And on the other hand, with bad stress, this amygdala fellow, this keeps increasing and get activated more and more. So all your responses will be very much impulsive. It will be just, you see something and just react to it without even giving a thought. And sometimes if it becomes very active, then people can take an extreme step. So basically if you are alert, you are using your human region, and that human region is regulating your brain and body and all your actions and decisions and everything. If you are stressed, and that too chronically stressed, it is your animal brain which is at work, and everything is all impulsive, not giving thought to anything. It is just a reflex action. And under extreme circumstances, so in the suicide patients, we see that the amygdala neurons are generally larger in size. Or with the people who are rescued, like they are committed but they did not die, this region is seen to be much more active than in the normal ones. And so all these effects can happen when you are stressed out in that bad region. I am not going into the detail of each of them because the receptors are present across the brain and body. All the systems are affected. I mean the disease of diabetes or heart attack or blood pressure and so on and so forth, gastric issues and stuff, it can link to or increase the chances of many of these diseases. One very important thing, the early childhood experiences which all of us go through, that has a very crucial role. So when the mothers were depressed during pregnancy, okay, these child who were inside the depressed mother, after 20 years they showed signatures of a stressed child. They never faced any stress in their own life, just the depression of mother. The children from low socio-economic background who see lot of domestic violence or addictions at home or many of these situations, in that early childhood, the effects of this stressful experiences in childhood can manifest throughout the life because many of the signatures then go to the DNA level. So there are epigenetic changes in the DNA and that manifests its effects throughout the life. And that has huge implications in parenting and schooling. Anyways, we are not going to that side much in detail. So now, if we are stressed, what to do? Do we overcome stress or welcome stress? Overcome? Welcome. Okay. is that? Just a couple of close relationships, that's it. Then it doesn't matter if you are having so much of money or so much of power or status or success or anything. I mean, that is all important. That is all having its own role. But the more important thing than any of the other factors is just having a few close relationships. That's it. With whom you can share your stuff. That's about it. I mean, in India, traditionally we have had this very strong family culture system, which is unfortunately losing its charm these days. But this is the conclusion of the largest study in science till date. Exercise, yoga, and this also has been shown to cause neurogenesis. So we have all been taught in school that neurons generally do not regenerate, they do not make new neurons, but there are regions in the brain which also get new neurons, and that process is going on at a very slow rate. But with exercise, these regions are shown to be getting activated. In animals also, it is seen at molecular level, all the things are done. In humans, there are a lot of studies now. Very important, especially for all the people of my age or the ones who are deciding about their career. Do what you love, love what you do. Very, very important, because say at least in the field of science, it becomes of utmost importance, because unless you are really passionate about something, it will be doing injustice to the field what you are working. But I guess even otherwise, like today morning we have heard so many people, and the ones who were really passionate about what they were doing, they could do total justice to what they were doing, and they could succeed very high. So instead of just one thing, so instead of going behind fashionable things like this is a very fashionable career, IT or anything, media or anything fashionable, or doctor or engineer, just follow your passion sometimes, because finally success will come everywhere. But what matters is that satisfaction, contentment level, that will be very, very high. I don't know, probably the money will be not so much as in some of the other careers, but I guess that should not be very important, because finally we are living to be happy or be rich. I mean, we have to decide, like, want to be rich or we just want to be happy. Okay, now till now whatever factors I have told, family, friends, career, job, playing, these are all generally the external things. Like, you get this kind of situation, you will be happy. But are we totally dependent on the external factors? What if sometimes the external factors just do not go along well? Today morning we had this great speaker, Nirmala ma'am. None of whatever things happened to her was under her control. It was just destiny. But what did she do? Did she freeze in that situation, or she faced that situation? Faced. Positive attitude. Come what may, it's okay. Now, in the beginning of the talk, I asked a question. I asked a couple of questions. Stress is good or bad? And how many of you are stressed? Okay. Now, in the US, almost last 15 to 20 years, in the public database, they asked this question during the population census thing. And then they tracked these individuals for the next 5 to 7 years. And then they saw that people who were stressed out and thought that stress was bad. This "and" is very important. The ones who are stressed and thought that stress is bad, they had 43% higher chance to die in the next 5 years. 43%. So, if you are having stress and you feel that it's okay to have stress, that won't increase the chances to die. But if you are stressed and think that it's bad, then you would die at a rate of 43% higher than. Don't change this slide. Now this is the slide I want to spend the maximum. Okay, now just imagine you are on this side, on the stage, and there are a lot of judges sitting on the other side, and you are given this task. What happens suddenly? The heartbeat increases and all. Now the same task, we generally use this task, the public speaking task, for the stress task in the lab. Now before the task, these individuals were given some fake paper that stress is good because the system is meant for that, and the research studies have shown that stress is excellent and also on. The other group were given papers where it was like ignore. If you have any stressful situation, ignore, fly away from it. And there was a control group which was not given anything. And then they had this task. What the results came were, the control group had negative profile of the heart cardiac output that they were checking. The ignore group were having negative but not to that level, the flight response. But the ones who were given the papers to face the situation, they actually showed positive response, not the negative response. It just became positive. So just this mindset that stress is good and come what may, whatever situation is there, I'll face it. That became a positive response in itself. And we have a beautiful concept of nirjara in our philosophy, anyways I won't go much into detail. So the first person who did systematically a lot of studies on stress, he defined it. Stress is not the situation but how you perceive it. This perception is very important because the same situation can be okay for somebody but not so okay for somebody else. Next. So basically, if there is a challenge, can that be converted to an opportunity? Like just in the previous talk we were saying, like when he opens the newspaper there are all these negative things. But what he looks for is opportunities, not the problems. Next. Meditation. Again one very internal thing, the golden standard for any of the stress related problems. So in the US they will have this fashionable term, mindfulness based stress reduction program, MBSR. We just have normal GAM or any such terms, but we generally don't value. When we say MBSR based studies and stuff, then we will start valuing. So what did they find? Just 2 months of meditation for half an hour every day. Okay. Next. This region increased in volume just in 2 months. That one next became small and small, and also the perception about stress became low and low. This is with age. I told you that this region specifically with age it shrinks. But when they see the long-term meditators, the ones who are meditating for last 15 to 20 years, there was hardly any reduction in the grey matter volume at PFC, the prefrontal cortex. One more very important thing. Today morning we heard, my dear friends, about disaster resilience. Any disaster which is happening in the outside world, how do we prepare for that? We make good buildings or something. There are several studies now that to build resilience for the internal disasters which all of us are going through every day, meditation is one of the very powerful tool to do it. Okay. You can reevaluate your problem. So basically the conclusion is simple. Any problems or any of those things, the solution lies with you. We can always blame the external situation or look outside or stuff, but for most of the time it will be we within who can introspect and get up to the solutions and stuff. And this perception change. There is one thing I want you all to take back. This perception change is very important. That stress is good, it's okay, I can face the situation, this is just the opportunity. Thank you.